Most tax pros leave a message.
It's Jane. I'm moving on to a TurboTax expert who beat your price. Adam Devine, tell him how I feel.
Hey, tax pro, she's been thinking twice. Best believe TurboTax will beat your price. This is a tax break.
Switch to a TurboTax Live expert and we'll beat what you paid your pro last tax season. Make the switch at TurboTax.com/beatyourprice. TurboTax full service only. Sign up by 12/20/2024 and file by 4/1/2025. Full details at TurboTax.com/beatyourprice.
He was doing like some planning to try and kind of save money here and there, and the adventure seemed a little too much for us. My exact words were, "I'm not trying to get sex trafficked this summer."
Because wait, but why did you feel that way? Because he was going off.
Like, he wasn't going to like resorts or anything like that. He wanted to kind of head it himself, rent a car, kind of
go into the jungle.
There you go.
Yeah.
And no.
This is the plaintiff, Candace Winfield. She says she met the defendant on a dating site, and they hit it off immediately. She thought nothing of renting a car for him, buying him airline tickets, and sending him some money because she thought they were going to be the real deal. Unfortunately, things didn't work out. Now she can't get him to pay her back. Some people. She's suing for $1,493.97, the amount she's out. This is the defendant, Darren Ingram. He says the plaintiff felt bad for him because he got COVID while he was away, and she purchased plane tickets so he could get back to her earlier because she was worried about him. He paid her back for the car. He's sorry things didn't work out, and he simply doesn't owe her all this money she's suing him for today. He's accused of stringing a lover along.
All parties, please raise your right hand.
What you are about to witness is real. The participants are not actors. They are actual litigants with a case pending in civil court. Both parties have agreed to drop their claims and have their cases settled here before Judge Marilyn Milian in our forum, the People's Court.
People's Court is now in session. The Honorable Judge Marilyn Milian is now presiding. Litigants have been sworn, Your Honor.
Thank you, Douglas. Okay, Ms. Winfield, what is going on?
I think it's just a normal case of a friend letting a friend borrow money and then the friend not paying someone back.
So you two met how?
We met online, like on a dating site.
Which one?
I think it was Facebook.
And then you started dating?
Casual.
Okay. And what happens?
We hung out for a few months, pretty, I would say hardcore. Majority of the week we'd be hanging out, going, doing things. Mr. Ingram had been planning to go to Costa Rica for quite some time. He had mentioned it to me, had talked about his plans, had invited me and my daughter to go. Kind of last minute.
He was going with his sons?
He was going with his sons,
And how old
yes.
are his sons, more or less? Like, are they teenagers or?
19, 18,
Okay.
17, that age range.
Uh-huh.
We decided not to go.
Why did you decide? First you had decided to go, right?
Correct.
And then you decided not to go because?
He was doing like some planning to try and kind of save money here and there, and the adventure seemed a little too much for us. My exact words were, "I'm not trying to get sex trafficked this summer."
Because wait, but why did you feel that way? Because he was going off.
Like, he wasn't going to like resorts or anything like that. He wanted to kind of head it himself, rent a car, kind of
go into the jungle.
There you go.
Yeah.
And no.
No? Okay, that's it. Well, May, you guys are, different. All right, so go on. So you decide not to go, and what happens?
So he's continuing to plan. He's very excited about this. The day of comes. He needed a ride to get the rental car to get to the first point of destination. I drop him off at the rental car place. I'm waiting, to leave once he says everything's okay, and everything wasn't okay. He had a debit card, not a credit card, for the deposit portion of it. And so I offered to do the deposit, this was the start of the trip. So I was like, let's just get you guys going. We agreed that I would pay the deposit and that he would turn the vehicle in, and that would kind of be the end of it. He had already prepaid the car. So they're off, they're gone, they leave on their trip. Everything that could go wrong on the trip went wrong. His phone.
What? Like what? What went wrong on your trip?
My cell phone crashed the first night. The second night, the ATM ate my debit card.
The dog ate my homework.
Right.
Go on.
And so I asked Candace if she'd let me borrow $500 until I got back from Costa Rica, and she said yes.
How long were you there?
4 or 5 days.
Okay.
And so at the end of the trip, she offered to purchase a one-way ticket for my sons and I to fly back.
Well, didn't you have a ticket?
I did have a ticket, but my return trip ended in New Orleans, and which would require me to rent another vehicle to get back to my hometown.
Of?
Fayetteville, Arkansas.
Okay.
And so I didn't have a credit card at the time to pay the deposit for the rental. And so she was...
But didn't you know this before you left to Costa Rica?
No, ma'am.
Not much of a planner, are you?
It was my first international trip. And so...
Yeah, but I mean, whether it's international or local...
Right.
How were you planning? Why would you buy a ticket that takes you to New Orleans with no game plan to get from New Orleans back?
I did have a game plan, actually.
What was your game plan?
I thought I could use my debit card to pay the deposit.
To rent a car?
Yes. Right. So, because I have used a debit card in the past to rent a car, but the rental-car place didn't allow me to use my debit card.
Well, but you didn't end up, like, you figured this out. What happened? Do you guys get sick when you're over there?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
COVID?
Yes, ma'am.
All of you?
Just me.
Okay. Because I see one text that you send her where you say, I'm sleeping on the porch. What porch?
Oh, okay. So on our return flight, I had a layover in Charlotte, and the plan was to stay the night at a friend's house. But by the time we got to Charlotte so late, we knocked on the door. He didn't answer. He was asleep. And so
Wait, did you have a plan to stay there, or you had a plan to knock on his door and surprise him?
We had a plan to stay there. However, our flight was late returning to Charlotte.
Okay.
And we didn't get to his house until close to midnight.
And he just wouldn't answer the door?
He has a family, he has kids, you know.
Yeah, but still, like...
Right.
I don't understand. Did you knock on his door?
I did. I rang the
And he wouldn't
doorbell.
answer the door?
No.
Did you text him?
Right. The next morning, he saw us outside on the porch and he apologized.
Okay.
He had taken some sleeping medicine to help him sleep.
Okay.
And so he said he didn't hear the doorbell. And so we just slept on the porch until the next morning. I mean, he apologized. It wasn't a big deal.
All
It was a nice
right.
neighborhood.
So now you're in Charlotte, but according to you, she offers to buy you guys a direct flight from where to where?
From Charlotte to Fayetteville.
As opposed to you going from Charlotte to?
New Orleans.
Okay.
Where I had to rent a car
And
in New
that was
Orleans.
just out of the goodness of her heart?
Yes, ma'am.
You agree you owe her the $500?
Yes, ma'am.
But you don't agree that you owe her the flights?
Correct.
Okay. Why would this girl, like, if you're dating casually, why would she pay for your flights? I mean, if she wants you to pay her back the $500, why wouldn't she want you to pay her back the $769.71 in flights?
Right, that's a good question. You have to ask her.
I'm going to ask her, but
right.
I know what she's going to say. She's going to say, I never said he didn't have to pay me back. Why wouldn't you make him want him to pay you back for the flights?
No, I understand.
Yeah, right. Did you want him to pay you back for the flights?
Yes, and I sent a
Okay,
text
so I'm
to
asking
that
you
effect.
now, why wouldn't she want you to pay her back for the flights? Where do you get that she didn't want you to pay her back for the flights? Do you have any proof of that?
No, ma'am, I have no proof of that. It was just her word against mine. Just in conversation, she said I would pay it back.
Is
Yes,
it
ma'am.
her word against yours?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you ever text?
Yes, ma'am. We
Can I see the text you have with her?
okay, so my phone died, crashed in Costa Rica, and so we corresponded a lot through my son's cell phone.
Okay, so do you have those texts so
no,
I can
ma'am,
see what the agreement
I do not.
was?
His account was hacked, and he no longer has access to those text
Do you know
messages.
who does have access to those?
She does, yes.
So what am I going to see when I look at those texts?
A conversation about
Whether or not you were supposed to pay back the flights, and what am I going to see there?
I'm not sure.
Oh, well, why don't we?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm in Charlotte now, trying to reroute flight to Little Rock instead of New Orleans. Can you help me with the cost of the ticket? And she says, look, we're coming up on $1,300 once all is said and done if she does that. I will need the $500 from Cash App back ASAP, and the remainder by the end of July. What part of that makes you think you're not supposed to pay back the flights?
From the text message, it looked like I'm supposed to pay back the amount.
You think?
But after that, when I return back to Arkansas in our conversations, she tells me I don't have to pay her back.
Okay, my interest is what was the agreement when you got the money? The agreement when you got the money is that you're supposed to pay her back. Did you ever tell him he didn't have to pay you back, darling?
No.
Okay, This is why you don't normally do this without a long conversation and something in writing. But lucky for you, these texts are basically the kind of proof that you need. Now, does he ever pay you back the $500?
No.
Okay, so, and he was supposed to pay you back when?
So it's the 500 plus the tickets, and then they returned home. I actually went and got them from the airport and took them home. And then I go a few weeks later to get my reconciliation from the rental company because I rent often, and I show that there was an extra day on my credit card.
Because he showed up late with the car?
No, on his Facebook he said, "Oh, I'm really," and I didn't catch this at the time, but I went back later. I guess he was enjoying his time where he was, and he was going to keep the rental for an extra day. Did you keep the car an extra day?
No, ma'am, not an extra day.
When did you return the car?
I was an hour late returning the car.
Okay, and so they charged you they charged her an extra day on her credit. Show me the proof that they charged your credit card.
It's right here. It shows the prepay first, and then the $249 or $224.26 is what was remaining.
Yeah, her credit card got charged another $224.26. If you're the rental car company, if you were an hour late and they charged you for that much, then you can take it up with them. But why should she have to pay that? She's out that money. I'm looking at it.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, jeez. When did you stop dating him?
It was like the end of July.
And why did you stop dating him?
Because he has a very hard time with honesty.
So tell me, what was the last straw? Did it have to do with the money?
No.
Oh, no. Why did you stop dating?
It had to do with our casual dating experience, that I was fine with Mr. Ingram having other partners, having other dates, because we were casually dating. But he seemed to think it was okay for all of us to be in the same day. So I'm a little
So you don't have a problem if it's the next day. You only have a problem if it's the same day?
No, I have a problem if it's like not at the next day.
You think STDs somehow magically leave that way, or?
Well, I mean, we're, like I said, casually dating. We're seeing other people. Like, I don't have any, common respect, right? Just making sure that you're respecting each other's boundaries.
What do you do for a living?
I am a mobile notary.
Mobile notary?
Mm-hmm. Small business owner.
Yeah. You deserve better.
I agree.
Right, but you have to believe that, right?
Correct.
Right. It's like, if there's nothing in it for you, and if you're pouring all this money into his little trip, and he's seeing other people, and it sounds like you didn't really mind that he was seeing other people, but then it sounds like you did mind eventually, because it's the same day or whatever, but
right.
You have to decide that you get what you want out of a relationship.
Correct.
It doesn't involve money going this way and attention not going that way. And I've read the text between you two where, like, at one point you say, "You're what I need right now, more than air." No man should be what you need right now more than air. You need air more than anyone else.
No, I understand. But I think you're taking it out of context. I was referring to the friendship. Me and him had a really good friendship. I came out of a really, really, really bad, long 18-year marriage, very abusive. And so the friendship was what I was referring to, the candid, the honesty. It wasn't like your air like love. It was more like air like you're refreshing.
Right. So how was he dishonest in seeing people the same day as you, if everything was so honest?
You keep using the word seeing people the same day. He wasn't seeing people the same day. He was seeing people the same day.
Okay, so he's having sex with you and someone else on the same day. What if it were two different days? What
if it was like time in between? I don't think
so. If there's 10 hours in between, you're okay.
No.
I mean, you're not making any sense.
No,
you know
I'm
that,
saying,
right?
No, I mean,
right, but you're not making any sense.
No, it is making sense because, like I said, if someone casually dates and you go out on a date and you're having sex with one person, that was the agreement that we would at least disclose what was going on, and he wasn't disclosing. He was
okay,
just
that's
doing.
Different. So what you're saying is not that it was the same day, but that it was at all, because you wanted to be told if he had multiple
I have
partners.
A choice, right? What I want to do or not do.
Okay. Do you have anything to say for yourself, Mr. Ingraham?
Well, I apologize for the inconvenience. If you find that her claim is accurate,
oh, you
I
think?
should hear back.
Well, let's see. She loaned you $500. You didn't pay it back. She bought your flights, and the text showed you were supposed to pay it back. Mm-hmm. And her rental car, and she got charged for your lateness on the rental car. So you think I'm going to order it? Yeah,
yes,
I'm going to order it. $1,493.97 verdict for the plaintiff. But next time, use a little better judgment where your money goes, right?
So, it's no surprise the plaintiff has prevailed. She gets what she's seeking here in the People's Court. Let's see what the defendant has to say. Mr. Ingram, you really didn't have much of a defense. What are your thoughts right now?
Right. I didn't have much of a defense. She's right. I owe her the money, and I'm going to pay her back.
But yeah, you are. The judge says you have to.
Right.
All right, that's it. You know, I think she's probably lucky you're on your way. Okay?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Let's talk to the plaintiff, Ms. Winfield. You have won. What do you think?
Well, I mean, I was pretty sure when I came here that I was due this money. I just needed someone else to say so I can get it.
The judge gave you some good advice. Do you think she's right and that you should be listening to her?
Oh, I think she's spot on. I just came back from, like I said, a horrible marriage, and I'm right out the gate. I met Mr. Ingram, and I just need to be a little more careful with who I spend my time with.
Congratulations. You have won.
Thank you.
And that'll do it.
Okay, Doug, again, this is a case where one text message was the smoking gun. This is why there was a winner and a loser, because of a text message. So if you're in a dispute and you think it could end up in court, think about that when you respond to a text or initiate a text to make sure you cement your position.
Can you subpoena anyone you want for small claims court?
Yes, I think in virtually every small claims jurisdiction you have the power to subpoena records, documents, and people to appear to testify.
And sometimes it's the court that you have to ask the court to issue the subpoena.
You might need leave of court, permission from either the judge or the court clerk to actually issue a subpoena.
Of course, whoever you serve the subpoena on can fight the subpoena, can put it in front of the judge and say, I have nothing to do with this case. You know, whatever reason they have, I can't take that day off from work, whatever it is.
But not that typical in small claims
no,
jurisdiction.
Most people just bring their witnesses and bring their documents, and the rules are more relaxed in small claims because there usually are no lawyers and people don't understand the rules of evidence. So judges are a lot more relaxed in small claims in terms of, I mean, you can't just base your whole case on hearsay, but the
hearsay is going to sneak in small claims.
It's going to sneak in here, sneak in there.
And if you do get stuck on the end of a subpoena, you receive one, you got to show up.
Oh, yeah.
And you have to stay there until you're excused by the judge or by both parties, maybe, or else you could face
you have to fight it, because if you just don't show up, it's a problem.
It could be anything. Yeah. You can't just dodge it.
No.
This is the plaintiff, Kira Sunderland. She says she rented a horrible house from the defendant and had to suffer with no heat and a crumbling ceiling, which she thought might come down and hit her in the head. The defendant has violated the law by renting this house, and she's here suing him for the $9,085.10 she's owed. This is the defendant, Timothy Kelly. He says the plaintiff's grossly exaggerating the condition of the house because she's looking to get a big payoff. The ceiling had a crack in it, which he tried to repair, but the plaintiff was uncooperative, and she asked for the heat to be turned off because she was too hot. Oh, her? No way. He's accused of renting a house of horrors.
All parties, please raise your right hands.
Welcome back to the People's Court. Next case on the docket, the plaintiff rented a house from the defendant, says it was in horrible condition, and she's lucky to be alive. But the defendant says the plaintiff is grossly exaggerating the condition of the house, and this is meritless, this case. It's the case of House of Horrors.
Thank you, Douglas.
You're welcome.
All right, Ms. Sunderland, you are suing your landlord's represented here by the management company, which is represented by Mr. Kelly, correct?
Yes.
Okay. For $9,000 in rent rebates for different problems that there have been throughout the course of the last, I guess, about a year. Why don't you tell me what happened?
I moved in April of 2019. I've been here 2 years, 10 months. There's been a series of problems, some small and some larger. So what I am asking for is a rent abatement, which is just a portion of what I've already paid to them for the times when the house didn't meet the minimum standards of habitability, according to California laws.
Are you there right now on a month-to-month, or are you in the middle of a lease?
I'm on a month-to-month.
Okay. And has an eviction begun or not, Mr. Kelly?
No, it has not.
I'm kind of surprised because if she's on a month-to-month that she's suing you, one would think you would want her out. The owners don't want to evict her?
That's called retaliation.
So, well, it could be, or it could I mean, once she's done, that doesn't mean that you have to rent to her. So I don't know that that's necessarily accurate, but you know your judges better than I do. And I can understand waiting until this is done. In any event, Ms. Sunderland, according to you, there are three main problems. The first one has to do with heating. So tell me about that. Go ahead.
Okay, there had been electrical problems with the house, and the same summer, the heater was malfunctioning. So I did notify them that the heater, whenever it was a warm day, the heater would come on and blow hot air into an already sweltering house.
Okay.
And you couldn't turn it off. You could not override it, even shutting the whole system off. So when I notified them that there was something wrong, it wasn't fixed, but one of the repairmen, as a favor, just turned the system
bypassed it. All right, so you turned the system
off. He bypassed it somehow.
So that was fine for the summer, but then we get to October, and what happens?
So in October, I notified them it's getting really cold, and I don't have a heater that works. So they did make arrangements to send someone over to fix the heater. He took one look at it and said it can't be fixed. And it was a very fast look. And I said, well, how do you know that? And he said, those are under a recall. Those are dangerous. That has to come out.
Why were they dangerous?
Apparently that they had started house fires. They would overheat.
Okay, so go on.
So that was eventually replaced. So I was asking for a rent abatement during that time when I didn't have any heat. And it was in the 40s. It was a cold snap, of course. So he did replace it. But there was, that period of time where I didn't have it. And it should have been addressed in the summer when it was failing.
Okay. And was there, according to you, Mr. Kelly, during that period of time, which is 2 weeks, part of the delay was her fault? Why do you say that?
The contractors, we give the phone number of the contractor to make a schedule with the tenant, and it has to be done on her schedule because she has dogs. She does not want people to go in the property when she's not there. So they have to work around her schedule. So that delays getting the repairs done.
Well, maybe not. Maybe her schedule, she was available the next day. So can you prove to me that 4 or 5 days, as you say, was her fault?
That would be with the contractor that installed the heater, and he's not here.
Okay. Do you have an affidavit from him?
No, but he also has to order the part and replace the heater. It was $5,500. It's not something that can be replaced instantly. So it does take a couple of days.
No, I understand that. I'm just wondering how much of the delay is her fault and how much of the delay is not her fault. That's all. But at the end of the day, I understand what you're saying. You're going as fast as you can, but as fast as you can, she kind of has a point that maybe we all knew there was something wrong with the heater in the summer, and somebody should have addressed that instead of waiting, kicking the can down the road. All right, so that's the first thing you're complaining about. What's the second thing you're complaining about and asking for a rent abatement?
The second thing was the ceiling was collapsing in the large main bedroom. And I notified them on May 19th. On the 24th, they did say that they could send a handyman over. He came the same day and said it was beyond his scope. Nothing happened for nearly a month after that until June 17th, and they asked to send a contractor over. They asked to send an engineer over. I was available for that as well. An engineer came over, and then nothing happened again.
We're talking about the ceiling crack, right?
The ceiling crack, yeah.
Okay.
Because the ceiling was actually lowering, and the cracks were widening, and the plaster was starting to buckle.
Okay.
It was like the ceiling was coming down. So in July, on the 23rd, the heater guy, the original heater guy, showed up. Nobody gave me any notice he was coming, just pounding on the door to check the heater. And then on the 28th, he moved the heater. Because apparently what was going on is the heater had been put on top of the ceiling and was going to come through the ceiling.
Okay.
And the reason why it was doing that is a wall had been removed in that larger bedroom. Apparently it was a weight-bearing wall was removed and nothing was put in its place. So the heater was sitting right there at the place with no support at all. again, I kept asking, when is this going to happen? And please let me know in advance. On August 12th in the afternoon, Tim called to say that the demolition was going to start the very next morning. I asked him to just delay it for 2 more days. He called me back and he did put it for the following Friday, which is the 20th. And they did come and they did do the demolition.
Okay, and what is it you're asking for a crack on the ceiling from May 19th till August 20th?
Because it was structurally unsafe. And
no, what are you asking for? You're asking to have half of your rent returned to you. Is that correct?
Right, correct.
Okay, so I need to understand what the deficit during that time was for you. When you say, well, it could have this, it could have that, but it didn't, right?
It didn't, but they put me at risk. The ceiling was several inches lower in that.
Okay, but how did it affect you? You didn't have to move out of the room. You didn't have to. There was nothing that affected.
I did move out.
I know you did. That's the third chunk of what you're suing for. We'll talk about that in a second. But before you're moving out of the room, in the months it's taken to have engineers and whatever look at it and figure out what the problem is, how does this affect you? A crack on the ceiling that you should get 50% of your rent back because you're asking for $1,500 a month because there's a crack on the ceiling. You had to move out of your room. Tell me about that.
Well, I moved out during that time once the contractors had indicated that it was unsafe. So I was staying in the guest room. I just didn't move all my items out.
Okay. So now it gets fixed. How long does it take to get fixed? From August 20th to when?
Till September 10th was the last day the workers were there. And then the 11th and 12th, I was moving my items back into the room.
Okay. It appeared as if a weight-bearing wall had been removed. Where did you get that from? You stated that as a fact a moment ago in the trial. You seem a little less certain in the complaint. Where did you get the idea that was where the problem came from, removing a weight-bearing wall to make 2 bedrooms?
Well, the contractors had said that, but you could also see a seam up both walls prior to this.
Okay.
And a very, kind of a sloppy patch across the ceiling and going down.
Okay.
But it was intact. And you could also see where a doorway had been patched over. It was like they'd taken 2 small bedrooms and removed the dividing wall to make 1 large one.
Is it accurate that she complained May 19th and the work didn't begin until August 20th? Is that accurate?
Correct. We sent a handyman there. He reported back after looking at it that out of his scope of work that he can do. So he suggested a contractor. At that point, the contractor, we give the phone number on their time that they can schedule with the tenant. It takes time to get that repair. It's not something that can be done overnight. You have to actually, they told us, have to remove the whole ceiling and start over again because they changed the joist in the rafters. And when I say that the contractor is trying to agree with a time with the tenant, but when those contractors aren't here and I don't have an affidavit, you said that I cannot use that. She also can't use it. She claims the contractor said it was going to fall, or the contractor said this, the contractor said this. She can't use that.
Okay. What's good for the goose is good for the gander, I guess is what you're saying. And so go on.
Okay. So on August 19th, contractor went over there with his workers and helped her move all of her stuff out of her bedroom. Never once did she ever tell us that she was not using the bedroom. Okay.
Do you have anything in writing where you tell them that you've moved out because they say it's unsafe?
No, I did not notify them. I was just staying in the guest room, but my belongings were still there.
Because you don't sound to me like someone who goes quietly into the night. You sound like someone who, asserts her rights. All right. So now we're in August 20th. According to her, it takes from August 20th till September 11th that she is physically out of the bedroom and has no use of the bedroom. Are those dates true or untrue, Mr. Kelly?
Well, from our records, we have the 19th, we moved her stuff out of the room.
The 19th of what?
And the works of August.
Okay. When was it concluded? Tell me, I went from the 19th to when?
Okay. And then our records show that it was completed, that the contractors went over there on the 7th and they completed on the 9th.
Now, you're suing for 100% of your rent to be abated during the time you didn't have your bedroom. Is that correct?
Correct.
And why 100%?
The rest of the whole house was affected. Everything is moved into the other rooms. I submitted pictures. The other rooms were full. I mean, a bookcase and books in the kitchen, headboard and the bookcase itself are on the patio.
Is this the crack we were talking about?
Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely unsightly, but...
There are other pictures of the ceiling. Actually, it was lower when you get a whole picture. You can see that it's lowering at the point where it sagged down there.
Okay.
You can see behind the door, that was where
Did you move out during the construction?
Out of the bed. I did not move out of the house.
No. So you lived in the house. So why would it be fair for you to get 100% free rent?
Because the house was not in a tenantable condition. They could not have rented the house like that.
Okay, that explains why you should get something. It doesn't explain why you should get 100%. My question to you is, why do you believe 100% is appropriate if you stayed in the house? It's not, should you get something back for, I tend to agree with you that you had too long a loss of whatever it was. And I agree with you, Mr. Kelly, that, hey, sometimes that can't be helped. It's not that we're dragging our feet. It's that you got to permit it. You got this. You got to get the approval. You got to get an engineer. I get that. That doesn't change whether it's livable or unlivable. So we're talking about degrees here is what we're doing. Now, what's your take on what's happening? Like, what is your impression of her case and why she is demanding this stuff? Go ahead.
Well, my sense is that from day one she moved in there's a huge list. This is 34 different tasks that she has made for repair requests, some legitimate, some ticky-tack. For over a year and a half she's been there, 34 different requests. So this is not one request for repair. This is an ongoing problem.
Is the number of complaints unusual for the house?
Yes.
Okay.
So if she's not using one bedroom for 10 days, 12 days, okay, she can get a credit for that. That's about 25% of the house. She still had access to the other bedroom. She was the only one living there. She originally moved in with the boyfriend. The boyfriend no longer lived there anymore. He moved out. Don't know why, but anyway.
Not your business.
Not my business.
Right.
But I can guess. But anyways, 25% is what she should get for the bedroom.
He's not picking up what I'm putting down. If I say it's not your business, I probably don't appreciate you saying that. But anyway, go ahead. So go on.
I pick it up now. I apologize. She used the rest of the house, the kitchen, the backyard, the garage, front yard.
May I also make a statement?
Yes.
One of the reasons his saying how many requests there had been is exactly my point. This house has not been properly maintained. Those, like 4 of those requests.
Can I ask you, why don't you just leave this 3-bedroom house that you're living in and go somewhere that is properly maintained? You're on a month-to-month. You have no obligation to stay there if it's so awful. So why don't you just go somewhere else?
It's harder to move with pets. And I like the neighborhood. It's convenient.
Okay.
The neighborhood's great. But, there's been everything from rats to some of the requests are small. But I'm required to report things that are a problem. So you can't ask me to give me an old house that's not maintained and then try to fault me for reporting things, especially when they affect habitability.
Okay, so I would like to make a couple of observations. I believe that there is cause for some rent abatement. I do not believe it's the amounts that she's asking for. First of all, on the heater issue, somebody should have looked into the fact that there was a recall and changed the heater and all that stuff back in the summer when the heater was malfunctioning rather than waiting until someone complains again. So I think she asked for a 50% reduction. I think that's excessive. I think a 33% reduction, because it's a whole house affected, is appropriate. And based on the numbers that I've plugged in, the amount of rebate that I find for those 13 days is $442.83. As for the crack on the ceiling for 4 or 5 months, which required some serious analysis and figuring out, I do not find that she's entitled to anything for during that time. It's a crack on the ceiling. It doesn't affect the habitability of the house. I don't buy that she, had to move to another bedroom, and I don't see how that would entitle her to 50% rent for 4 months. I'm not doing it. That doesn't make any sense to me. As for the amount of time that she had to be outside of her bedroom, and affected by construction or whatever. I kind of understand that. I kind of agree with you, though, that it's not 100%, and that is unreasonable. I agree that with you that it's 25%. So that would be an additional $600, which means I am finding her in her favor in rent abatement in the amount of $1,042.83, which you would have probably gladly negotiated with her. But in your estimation, she got greedy. Now, I understand where you're coming from. And I also understand that I am not a judge in California and that California has an anti-retaliation law. I understand all that. But that doesn't mean that in a month-to-month tenancy, you guys are stuck married to her the rest of your lives. You need to speak to a lawyer to figure that out and figure out what is and isn't commonly accepted. And, you know, her rights end where her tenancy ends. And her tenancy ends every month with 30 days notice or whatever is required in California.
It's 60-day notice.
60-day notice.
And trust me, that's...
Okay. I just, you know, like I said, I don't know what the custom of your judges are. I understand that, you know, it's different in California. Okay. I've said my piece. $1,042.83. Verdict for the plaintiff.
So the plaintiff prevails in this lawsuit, but gets a lot less than she was seeking. She's probably very upset. She was asking for $9,085. She gets $1,042. Ms. Sunderland, how do you respond to this? How do you feel about that?
Well, it was more than a crack in the ceiling. The ceiling was collapsing. But, you know, I'm glad that I was able to have them uphold the lease, even for a small part.
All right. Well, listen, that's the judge's decision. She carefully considered that. It did look like the roof was, the ceiling was really dipping quite a bit. I can imagine you're being upset about that. Anyway, that's what the judges decided, and that's it. Mr. Kelly, you seem to be okay with that. You felt you could have negotiated that with her? Okay.
That's something that could be handled very simply, where she just made a simple request for that.
I must say, it does seem like it took a while, 3 months, considerable amount of time to get that ceiling fixed. Let me ask you one other question. The judge gave you some instructions and pointers on evicting someone like Ms. Sunderland, who's on a month-to-month rental. And I thought I heard you say, don't be surprised if something like that might be about to happen. Did you say that, or were you saying that to the judge?
Well, we don't just evict somebody. But on a month-to-month tenancy, we can end that tenancy with a 60-day notice.
So now that this lawsuit is over and you've kind of settled all of this, do you think the owner might consider ending her tenancy?
I will speak to the owner and ask her what she would like to do.
No predictions. Very interesting. All right. Well, that's been a very fascinating discussion, conversation, and case. Harvey, wouldn't you agree?
Doug, there's a warranty of habitability that's implied in every lease. That means that the place that you rent has to be free of health or safety conditions, and if it's not, you have legal recourse. And that recourse could be undoing the lease or even stopping paying rent.
Are there any activities that you simply refuse to do together?
Yeah, golf. I don't play golf, and I don't think you want me to play golf. No, sometimes I've gone in the golf cart with you just because it's a beautiful day and, you know, it's nice to be outdoors.
You're my chauffeur.
Not even. I'm actually your passenger, but...
That's true. You're usually doing other stuff.
But that's pretty much the only thing you do that I won't do with you. You think there's anything else? Pinball. I'm really not interested in pinball.
There's a few things we've done that we did together that after we started doing them, we kind of regretted doing it together.
Like what?
Like when we went to Las Vegas that one time to the 108th floor of the Stratosphere, and they had these amusement rides on the top, and then you get in these carnival ride things. And you're 108 stories.
You're 108 stories over Vegas.
Right, over the desert.
Right.
And it's swinging you out on the swing. And like, I'm across from you, and all of a sudden we're out there, and we're like, we have 3 kids. This probably wasn't a great idea.
We shouldn't have done that together.
Right. That'll do it for this session of the People's Court. See ya.